Alright, so we have a little bit of a theme this week.
Partially.
We're just gonna kind of alternate to get there.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna talk about Batman for a little bit, and then Batman's gonna come back later. But in the meantime, with some weird things in between.
Yeah.
Really, really weird things in between.
This is a bizarre video, overall.
Yeah. But first, obviously, we're gonna start with Suicide Squad. Once again, I don't know if you saw that video we did about what we were anticipating most this year. The most anticipated video.
Mm-hmm.
But I was looking forward to this movie more than anything else this year. Probably in the next couple of years, too.
Really?
So, and it wasn't just me, obviously. There was a whole lot of hype behind this, regardless of the reaction Batman vs. Superman got. People did not care. People were basically saying this was going to be great in all the places Batman vs. Superman fell short. Was the idea. And then, as usual, like a day before it came out, the reviews started coming in. And a lot of worry was going on. Well, there was the whole thing about reshoots, but number one, like all movies have reshoots, just it's not publicized all the time. And secondly, apparently it was just a rumor that the movie was being reshot to change its tone, when it was actually just to like redo some of the action scenes or something.
Right.
So really and it was the whole battling cuts where David Ayer had a cut and Warner Brothers had a cut, and they were kind of, I guess, dueling, but they ultimately, I don't know, I heard somewhere that this might be Ayer's cut that we actually saw, but you can never be too sure with that shit. So when those reviews came out, naturally they don't always matter. Depending on who you ask, they never matter. But it did make me... I figured it would be in my best interest to not be as hyped as I was. Otherwise, something bad might happen. Like it might turn out on the complete opposite spectrum of what I wanted it to be and was hoping it would be. The movie that I wanted it to be is kind of in there. Somewhere. Like I sense its life underneath everything that's actually there. But yeah, okay. I had heard that the standouts were Will Smith and Margot Robbie, which is weird given how underwhelming it was the last time they teamed up.
Yeah.
Does anybody even remember Focus? I don't think so. And there was the hype surrounding Leto's Joker, who is in this movie for like 10 minutes. Which I was saying before is kind of not... Once it kind of wears off, it's not all that surprising, because apparently Ayer added in the Joker to an already existing script that he like completely rewrote. So there was always the possibility that he was either going to be like the big villain of the movie or just a cameo, when really he's kind of neither. As the movie progressed, and after it was over and I was thinking about it, I was trying to put together exactly what the Joker's purpose is here. And I think I kind of have an idea.
Okay.
Not completely, of course, but I don't know. So, as far as the story is concerned, there was a lot of talk about that, and a lot of people were concerned about it. It was actually adding to my hype that nobody knew what the story was. Because we're in this age now where every damn thing is given away by advertising and commercials and trailers and shit. And people, leaking stuff on the internet and all that. So I was for some reason, I was blinded, I guess. But for some reason, it never once occurred to me, maybe the reason they're hiding the plot is because the plot sucks. Did you ever think of that?
I think a movie like this, sometimes the plot doesn't really matter.
But I think the idea that most people had was that the Suicide Squad's threat was going to be the Joker, which obviously was confusing because Harley's in the Suicide Squad and then Harley and the Joker, so that wouldn't have really made a whole lot of sense unless they set it up a certain way. Which in the middle of the movie I thought they were going to do.
Yeah.
Like, right in the middle of the movie I was like, this could be the point where the Joker is the main villain. And then we just never see him again. I mean, of course, you know, we don't never see him again, but in the movie, pretty much. That's pretty much his last scene.
I mean, his point in the movie is literally just to get Harley back. That's it. That's all he's there for.
And there was a turn I thought they were going to take there, and they just never went. They went in the same direction. And I'll tell you one of the problems I have with the main plot, and that is, I was just watching it happen, and we're getting our introductions and all that. Some of them really good, some of them not so much, some of them kind of tagged on, some of them non-existent. And so then we get the whole Enchantress thing, who was the character I was least excited about because she's played by Cara Delevingne. Yep. And the thing also is, and I was telling you before we went in, I was like, during the video, I was saying, I can't believe how hyped I am for a movie that has Jai Gordon and Cara Delevingne in it. And then it was like, wait a minute, maybe I should be saying, why exactly am I hyped for a movie with Jai Gordon and Cara Delevingne?
Yeah.
I should have questioned. It's so weird to notice all these glaring questions that I was blinded to when I was hyped for it.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from there.
But yes, all of these do end up being issues. And what I'm talking about with Enchantress is, we were getting Deadshot and we were getting Harley and all that, and it was kind of clear they were going to be the main focus.
Of course.
With Leto's Joker kind of here to be a sort of scene stealer of sorts. But then we get the whole thing with Enchantress and Flag. And I was like, well, that's whatever. But then Enchantress just kind of kept being the movie. And I was thinking, wow, we're spending a lot of time on her. I can't wait until we go to something else and then the movie, you know, does its thing from then on and we get past all this. No. Enchantress is the fucking plot.
Which, if you're not a fan
God
of this actress...
damn it.
If you're not a fan of this actress, this had to be excruciating for you.
Just the... I could feel my heart sink when it set in. Oh, Enchantress is like the main thing going on here.
Yeah, that was kind of a big issue.
No. And what is up, David Ayer? Why did you write this script? I didn't realize he had the sole writing credit until the end credits. Like, I was under the impression that there was an existing script that he added shit to. I didn't realize he completely made a new one and got the full writing credit. So I gotta ask you, being the writer-director, maybe... it's hard to say. Because the way Enchantress is portrayed in the movie, there's something interesting in there, but the movie never really goes into it. But even so, even if the character were interesting, entirely, why do you look at this script, see how crucial the character is, and say, I know who would be perfect for this part? Who in their right fucking mind says that? Because the makers of Paper Towns were not people in their right mind.
No.
And I think, like I said, I've never really, been in love with any of the movies he's directed. But, they're all fine. And good, in one way or another, at least. Or sometimes great, like Fury. And we continue on. Not only is Enchantress our main focus, but she creates the little villains that we're dealing with. The ones that the Suicide Squad's just gonna fuck up the whole movie.
Right.
Do you hear when you hear about movies that are being criticized for just being the death of a bunch of faceless henchmen? Or...
the putty syndrome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are literally a bunch of faceless monsters.
They're goo creatures. They're like
And
black ink goo
And by
creatures.
the way, was Viola Davis not lecturing Deadshot on the fact that these things could not just be shot and killed?
Correct.
Okay, because through the whole movie they're just getting shot and killed. That's what like half the movie is these things getting shot and killed.
Maybe Viola Davis is just misinformed.
And a baseball bat is enough to just break them
almost
apart.
all of them in.
So I don't know what dialogue Viola Davis was talking through, but I don't think it was supposed to be in this movie.
No.
Okay. I thought I was just hearing things, but I guess I wasn't if you're confirming it.
I'm confirming them.
Okay. Alright. I was a little concerned about also, this actually falls into, I know, just, crucify me if you want to for, soiling the sacred ground and everything, but another problem I have kind of stems from the source material.
I don't know anything about the source material, honestly. Just like I'm going to most superhero movies.
Well, I don't really know much about the source material in regards to these, but as far as this is concerned, it obviously. Just how the decision-making process of putting these people together and the uneven distribution of powers is really weird.
I can see that.
Because Flag is just a soldier. Deadshot's just a dude with guns. He's
a hitman.
He's very, very good with guns, but he just has guns.
He's
That's
Bullseye.
what he does.
But he's basically DZ's Bullseye.
But then you have, and then Harley, who's just her. But then you have like Killer Croc and El Diablo, where things get really, really, really big. And then you have everybody's favorites. Yeah, of course I'm talking about Slipknot. Yeah, Captain Boomerang just has his damn boomerangs. He doesn't. That's
it.
And so it's so odd, but yes. Okay, I had heard some jokes going in that Slipknot was pretty worthless, even in the comics. Like apparently there's a particular storyline where he's used to like test bombs. And
he looks like Steven Seagal when I first saw him.
That's Adam Beach.
I know, but Adam Beach looks like Steven Seagal.
Because he was...
He can take that any way he wants.
I'm sure you know him as fucking Chicken Wing and Joe Dirt. But
he was Kicking Wing. Oh my god!
He was supposed to be huge after Flags of Our Fathers.
What happened?
He just disappeared. I don't know. But but regardless, I had heard jokes going in that Slipknot was basically known for being worthless. Like, apparently his superpower is ropes or something.
Oh my god.
And we kind of get that scene where it's a good scene for Boomerang when he's like in the bag and they just open it and he just flies out of the bag and starts punching people.
That was great.
And then Slipknot like knocks out that woman.
That got a laugh from the crowd, actually.
Well, here's the thing is, when we're doing the intro, Slipknot does not get an intro.
No.
I don't know if it's because they were like, okay, this intro has become very, very long. People are, expendable. But then there's the whole thing where it's like, I was thinking, okay, they haven't gone into Slipknot yet, maybe he'll be introduced later. But no, when we're in that little boardroom and the pictures are on the wall behind them, he's up there with all the other people we've already met. And it's like, that's his intro. It's in the very background. His picture is there with everybody else. That's his intro.
And I was waiting for Katana to get a backstory too, and she really didn't.
Yeah, they were just kind of like... Once again, it was like they thought they were too overloaded with intros, so they were like, oh, we'll just start dropping them in. Just kind of conveniently. And we'll throw in their backstories from time to time. And do really... really mundane things that are there to trigger these backstories.
Yeah. It's kind of like there's a lull in the script. Let's throw a backstory in there to move along the plot.
It's kind of like, oh, there's this thing, and this thing reminds me of this thing, and this thing reminds me of this thing, and that thing that this thing and this thing remind me of reminds me of my backstory. But anyway, the Harley origin is pretty cool.
I love it.
It's really well shot, and I just kind of like it, just the whole thing, and like the colors swirling and shit.
Does she have Vicky Vale vibes to you too? Because she totally, with the hair and everything and the glasses, she reminded me of Kim Basinger's Vicky Vale.
Yeah, well, while we're on the Harley origin stuff, and I'm talking about the stuff I don't like we're kind of shifting. It sounds like we're not, but we're kind of shifting when I say this.
Right.
This kind of makes me want to transition to the Joker now. Or Jared Leto being, I heard a number of comparisons. The one that was really standing out to me, though, I hadn't heard this comparison before, but I'm surely it's been made. And that is, it's mainly the scene with Common, when he's doing the gangster thing, Are You Sweet Talking Me, and he starts doing the stuff. Jim Carrey in The Mask.
I heard Ace Ventura.
Really?
There's still several people on Twitter that were saying, what I didn't want to tell you was Ace Ventura.
There's actually a moment where he fucking looks like he's doing The Mask.
Yeah.
And, okay, look, I know, like, the second I already know because of, like, the tattoos and the style and the way he's doing it and stuff. The Joker was Leto's version of the Joker was gonna be controversial, especially since he is technically he's the first live action one after Ledger.
Right.
So there was pretty much gonna be criticism constantly. And then taking this approach, it just, every time he was on screen, I was just thinking, so many people are gonna hate this. People are not gonna like this at all. I don't know. I was okay with it. Because it's like I was telling you, it kind of felt a little confused because, like, that scene with Common, where he's doing the gangster thing, when you look back at comic books, that's definitely what the Penguin was.
Yeah, you got that vibe.
So it's kind of weird to see him in this scenario. But in this world, through a director like David Ayer's eyes, it felt appropriate enough. Where he's like this, because typically he's kind of I don't even know how to put it. People know who the Joker is and how he's typically portrayed. But the thing about it is, to me, it kind of felt like a natural progression.
Yeah.
Because we have the, comic version, and if you want to, obviously there's a live action one that predates this, but the Mark Hamill version as well.
That is the Joker to a lot of people.
But obviously before that we had Nicholson, who was very, yeah, I guess it's real touchy to say, what's the comics and what isn't, because people seem to think that the comics are this definitive thing when comics are changing constantly, so I don't really know what people are on when they say staying faithful to the comics. It's like, that's all great and all, but which fucking ones are you talking about? But there's really this, where Jack's Joker is kind of a close enough representation, I think.
Oh yeah, big time.
In regards to that. And then you go to Ledger, and Ledger was this thing where we were kind of in between, where he was a comic book character, but he was also in, like, a very, very real world. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, maybe people will hate me for saying this, but honestly, from Leto's Joker does not feel that out of place in the direction we're going.
Not at all.
So, because he goes from, being who Jack was, mm-hmm. and then Ledger's like this terrorist that's completely psychotic, and has everything is very, like, he has henchmen out the asshole and people working for him. So our natural progression is
Jared Leto,
this thug crime boss.
Seriously, if the Joker was real in this day and age, Jared Leto would be what the Joker would be.
And I know, like I said, there's a lot of stuff people hate, like the tattoos and the teeth and all that.
I don't mind it.
Honestly, if there's one thing that bothered me, it's how unceremonious his entrance is.
Yeah.
Like, he's just kind of, like, you'd think he'd have, like, some big introduction.
The editing in the trailer sets up something much better.
But no, he's just sitting there with Harley in his straitjacket. It's like, oh yeah, she knows the Joker, and we just cut to him, and there he is.
There's one moment in the movie, I don't want to give it away, but there is just a moment that was just really bizarre.
And I really, while we're on the subject,
it's something in her mind, so you know what I'm talking about.
All that.
I don't know if I want to bring that up, though.
It's like one of the first scenes we see of them. I wouldn't say it's too much of a giveaway. The scene when it's,
Yeah, when you see Jared Leto without face paint.
All that.
Yeah,
that's not what I thought you. I thought you were talking about the dancing.
No.
The suit and.
Oh my God! If you're a fan of Joker and Harley Quinn, there are several comic scenes that are taken directly in the movie. She does wear the Jester outfit, and it looks glorious.
And I really like the scene with Ike Barinholtz.
Oh, he's great in the movie.
Where I thought, he's Ike Barinholtz in this movie is John Carroll Lynch in Face Off.
Exactly. I hope he's more important.
And I
in the
like
sequel.
I do like the moment with when they're letting Deadshot do his thing, and he's saying like, this guy's crazy, don't do that, and then he's like, no, we're gonna let him do it, and then he pulls the gun, and shit, I knew it.
He puts the gun right on, and everybody laughed in the theater. It was great.
But no, the scene with Leto and Ike Barinholtz, when he does like when he has him like kiss the ring, and then he does I could tell you meant that.
That's what the Joker would be like nowadays. That's what people don't understand. This is the evolution of the Joker character.
But then there was a lot of stuff that I'd heard. I hear there's I heard there's a lot of Joker stuff that was cut because test audiences were pissy.
Why?
And secondly, I heard that there's actually quite a few great shots of the Joker that are in the trailers that did not show up here.
A lot of trailer moments were not in the movie.
Like, I remember a line, obviously I didn't see it, but I had heard that it was the Ike Barinholtz scene when he says the line, I can't wait to show you my toys.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember that.
In there.
I didn't think so. So, yeah, I do feel like that could have been... There's so many opportunities they could have done with this.
I think they're building.
And he's just barely in there.
I think they're introducing you to the character because it was kind of just tacked in there.
Like I said, you look at the other previous movies and the previous incarnations, and then you look at this movie.
Right.
What exactly has to happen for you to say, I'm not totally sure what the Joker's purpose is here? There's a whole lot of serious ball dropping for somebody to be saying that.
Okay. First off, Batman vs. Superman was Man of Steel 2 before they tacked Batman onto it. And Batman ended up easily being the best part of it. So I think this here was the Suicide Squad, and they threw the Joker in just to whet your appetite, and then he'll be a bigger deal in the second one. And when Affleck gets a solo movie, I cannot wait to see that.
It's hard to say that, though, given that...
That's just hearsay, though, of course.
Just given how heavily edited the movie is, and the fact that it's clear Leto was supposed to be in there more.
Right.
So it's not... You can't necessarily say they were planning it from the get-go.
Maybe they plan on putting more stuff into the sequel. So it might be the next option. Because the way the movie ends, it sets him up as a big deal for the sequel.
Does it? No.
It could, if they go the direction that I'm sure you want it to. Maybe that's the sequel.
I don't know. But, and yeah, the way it is also is, there's some stuff where it kind of feels like, there were some scenes where it almost felt like it was in the wrong order. I wasn't really sure, like, okay, how does that scene go with this scene? It feels more like it should go after this scene and stuff like that. But then it was, I mean, once it progressed, you kind of figure out what was and why it was. Like, for a while there, the scene with Leto and Ike Barinholtz at the place in the back room.
I thought it was going to go a different direction.
I felt it was in a totally different place in the movie. Like, I was
agree.
like, because then the next scene happened, and I was like, wait a minute, was that scene supposed to be there, or is it supposed to be later? But the way it plays out, eventually it makes sense. But honestly, it should make sense when you're looking at it, and not later. And then there is stuff like, I don't know, Flag is kind of our leader here.
He's Rick Grimes, basically. It's pretty much what he is.
And I like Joel Kinnaman fine.
He's okay.
But you think about the fact that this was supposed to be Tom Hardy.
I know, that's what bugs me about it.
It was the overshooting for The Revenant that made him have to back out. Because he really wanted to do it, but The Revenant held him back.
And then Gyllenhaal was offered it, but he said no.
And the thing about it was, though, that I was kind of seeing, as I was watching it, I was like, I honestly can't really imagine Hardy with this dialogue. Like, I can't imagine this dialogue coming out of Hardy's mouth. And secondly,
I see Boomerang more than anything else.
And secondly, it was kind of, it brought me down from Deadshot, too, because there was something This is like the one case when not watching trailers is a problem. That scene, and it might sound weird, but go back and watch the Ballroom Blitz trailer with your eyes closed. And I would like to think you'll know what I'm talking about. I was so hyped for Will Smith to play the character of Deadshot, and the way that it sounded like he was being portrayed. And I was like, this sounds kind of awesome, and I think it's really interesting to see him take on a part like this. Because he's obviously getting criticism for people like him in it, but he's being Will Smith. He's Will Smith with a bunch of guns.
Easily, he's still one of the best parts in the movie.
And one of the things that really intrigued me was when Flag is going through the rundown, and he says, if you step out of line, you die. If you irritate or vex me, you die. I swear to God, when I heard that in all the trailers, I thought that was Deadshot. And it's fucking Flag. I heard Joel Kinnaman's voice and could have sworn up and down it was Will Smith's.
Wow.
So, I'm imagining Will Smith as Deadshot saying, if you irritate or vex me, you die. And I'm like, this sounds fucking awesome. And then it's fucking Flag. Wow, that's a letdown.
What do you think about Flag as a leader, though?
Not a lot, because all he's doing is bitching about, I miss Enchantress.
Do you wish they would have killed him off?
I don't think it would have mattered.
Then he wouldn't be the leader anymore, and he wouldn't be in the movie.
I don't know. But you're probably looking at the star amount down there and wondering how I managed to get to 2.5 with all these issues.
Oh, it should be higher than that.
There's still a lot of fun stuff in here. Like I said, the movie I desperately wanted it to be is in there somewhere when you look for it. I like most of the intros like Deadshots.
Those were good intros.
When he's waiting for the dude, and then he's waiting for his the money to go through, and he finally gets the $1 million, and he's like, "Well, now you have to double it for being a dickhead." I just kind of like that whole character in general, and then the way, yeah, I know it sounds like it's really, really. It's going to sound like it's really, really bunched together, and I know a lot of people are going to use the word shoehorn, which I won't debate or anything, but...
You're going to use something else.
No, I didn't mind, the times Batman showed up.
That was good.
I was kind of hoping, number one, I told you before we went in, I was kind of hoping that there would be some reference to what the Joker has obviously done from that shot we got in Batman vs. Superman. I was really hoping that would come up.
Right.
And I had heard about the whole Joker and Harley driving down the road with Batman on the hood. And
yes.
It is disappointing that that's fucking flashbacks.
I know.
Because I kind of thought it was going to be like, like I said, I know if it had it happened this way, there probably would have been an overstuffing issue.
Right.
But for this, what I was kind of thinking about was the movie happening and the Batman-Joker feud just kind of suddenly happening in the middle of it. But it's like Harley's flashback. For like a second.
Like I said, it's to whet the appetite. It's going to happen.
And there's the whole... We set up the Deadshot thing, too, because there was that rumor that... I don't know if he's still looking into that, but the rumor I heard was that Affleck wanted Deadshot as the villain for the first solo movie.
I've heard that.
If that's the case, they really set it up here.
Big time.
Because they really set up... We have a much more of a Deadshot versus Batman feud in this than we do the Joker and him. Which I know makes sense, because Deadshot's like a main character in this. But still, you'd think they'd be setting up one, but they really seem to be setting up another. And I found that, like, that thing towards the end, when it's, everybody's seeing what they want.
Yes.
And that's what he wants. and for starters, though, that kind of seems to come out of nowhere. I know he's pissed, because Batman's the one that caught him.
Right.
Kind of. And like, I guess, kind of. He held him in place while other people captured him, but whatever. But no, they just kind of spring that on us. That he and Deadshot are like a really big feud that I guess this universe is gonna go into.
I want to see this, though. I really do.
I'm a little worried though with how this sets up though, because this plays it up as they're all lovable and misunderstood. That scene at the bar. So my concern is that when we get later in this universe, assuming they don't give up by then, there's once we get to the fact when we actually get to movies where they're the villains, are those movies going to go easy on them? Because we know and love them, and we get all gooey with them in the bar and stuff like that.
Well, here's what I think. I think that you set up the Joker as the villain for the second one, and they're going to go after him, and people are going to die.
How's Harley going to fit into that?
Harley's going to go along with him. So they're basically... Deadshot's going to try to get Harley back, and then he's going to cross Batman.
Well, you're saying they're going to fight over her?
No, there's like a simpatico between them. It's weird because they have personalities that really work well together.
You mean her and Deadshot?
Yes.
Because he fucking spared her. That's a big deal.
So I think that's going to get involved, and Deadshot's going to end up fighting the Joker. Batman's going to get involved in that, and then Joker's basically going to push Deadshot at Batman, and then that's going to lead to that, because that's already set off anyway. So you're going to get Deadshot and Joker in the next movie, and then that's going to lead to the solo Batman movie with Deadshot and Batman.
But then there's
also... But I want to see Affleck fight Leto. I really do.
But there's also the thing that we won't mention. It's fucking clear. Obviously, yes. You can figure it out, but we won't mention it just for the sake of it.
There is a credit scene, of course.
The thing that sets up.
The Sam Jackson scene. Basically. The trailer... Okay, you obviously don't watch trailers. There was footage that was shown for Justice League at Comic-Con, and it alluded to a lot more that they could ever talk about in this movie.
So, all in all, what you probably most gather from this review is that this is pretty much all over the place the movie is. And yeah, the action, for the most part, I guess the action is fine, but the problem is that they could have been, honestly, you know what I was thinking. I mean, I know this is a movie that gets name-dropped all the time when you talk about action movies, but let's be real. This movie has a lot... I mean, yeah, they're using, like, the city, basically, but as far as the action scenes go, most of them, we're kind of in limited settings.
Oh, yeah.
So, yes, when you think limited settings, what else do you go to? With the right kind of storyline, this movie could have been The Raid with superpowers.
Oh, God, that'd been amazing.
Can you imagine that?
Yes, it'd been awesome. That's what you wanted in your head, I can tell.
But instead, we got the CGI faceless monsters' heads going away, like the vampires in Blade.
I say don't give up on this franchise, though. I think it's got some more up its sleeve. Margot Robbie's awesome here. She really is. I think she was born to play Harley Quinn. This portrayal of Harley Quinn is amazing because
I like the voices thing.
And the Harley Quinn voice, the Arlene Sorkin voice, is there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not as overpowering as you would think it would be. And I think
that's if there's one problem I had, it's like I said, I'm not really sure how to exactly put into words why I see this as a problem and not an asset. But I don't know, there were times where I almost felt like she was a little too much like the animated Harley. but
to fans, that's something they wanted.
I know.
And they wanted her in the suit, and they got her in the suit.
Because like I said, there were some times where it was like she did that's not what the voices really said thing, and it's like, yeah. But then she'd get really into it to be like, yeah, maybe just a little bit.
I think it works. I really do.
And because there's a reason one of these is live action, one of them is a cartoon. That's what I'm saying.
And like we were talking about earlier, the scene with her and Joker in the chemical factory, that was phenomenal. Mm-hmm. That visual was amazing.
And while we were on the subject, just real quick, I was going to do this as a whole review, but then I realized it wasn't really... I didn't have much else to add, but I was finally able to see the ultimate cut of Batman vs. Superman this week.
Yes.
The one that's 3 hours and 2 minutes and officially R-rated. I'm not really sure where that R rating comes from, for starters.
That's the first thing I was going to ask you. Why is the R rating there?
There's Affleck's ass, and there's a scene in the warehouse where I don't believe this was in the theatrical cut. One of the SWAT dudes is thrown against the wall, and where his head hits, there's like a blood splatter.
So
apart from that, I think that's pretty much it that I remember.
That's a shame.
The editing does make a big difference. Like it sounds like probably not, but it really does. And there's also quite a few subplots in there, like the Jimmy Olsen thing is a little clearer, and that villain they kind of set up in those scenes with Lois at the beginning is in like the whole thing this time, and he's much more the reason he's here is much more apparent. The whole bullet thing makes more sense now with the Jenna Malone scenes were put back in. And there's another subplot involving like a witness that they go into. It's kind of like the Coolio subplot in the Daredevil director's cut.
Nice.
Like I said, it feels a lot more put together. The final Lex scene is much closer to the end and feels much better placed. The complaint I had about the introduction of Lex and Lex's whole plot with Zod's body, how the way it was kind of broken up and made it seem like it was kind of, uneven. All of that is just one big thing now. Just like I said in the review, it should have been.
So is it more pleasing to the Superman fans that were kind of upset that it was basically a Batman movie that was kind of shoehorned? With Superman stuff kind of thrown in a little bit?
I don't know.
I mean, we're not Superman people, obviously, but I mean, the movies are fine.
Not a whole lot of that is different.
So they kept the flow the same way.
Yeah, but then there's also, you got me sidetracked. What was I going to say now?
I don't know. I'm not in your head.
Yes. God damn it. I lost what it was. It's that middle portion,
right?
With the dream flashback, we're not really sure what in the desert.
With Batman with a gun.
That's still confusing. I still don't know what the fuck that is.
I was hoping that would solve that problem. Find out what that meant.
That scene with him and then the whole Flash thing. Nope. Still don't know what the
Superman's
fuck that is.
guards.
No idea.
Like it was the John Peters script
Absolutely,
all over again.
positively, no idea whatsoever.
Okay.
I think that's about it. So, yeah, like I said, the movie I wanted is in there somewhere, but it's buried pretty deep. But when it comes forth, I'm happy with it. And like I said, I know some people aren't happy with Leto's Joker, but honestly, I could have used a bit more.
A lot more of him, actually. The Flash is in there for like a minute, so... Actually, probably not even that. Maybe 10 seconds?
Even if that.
Yeah, so...
He's in the movie about as fast as he moves.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Go watch it, seriously.
So we, or make your decision, whatever you want to do.
Just don't believe all the hype, because everybody's bashing it hardcore right now.
You mean hate?
Don't believe the hype to how bad it is. Because everybody's hyping it up as horrible right now, so don't believe that. Just make your own decision.
But the people who do say they hate it,
they're gonna hate it regardless.
I can't really make an argument. Like, I was watching the movie and I was like, I'm okay with this, but if somebody said they absolutely hated this,
I understand where
I get it.
From.
I do. I get it. But, yeah. Okay.
Here we go.
Cara Delevingne leaves another body in her wake. So, okay. Our second movie, we're going to branch off of Batman and then come back later. But for now, we're going to talk about 9 Lives. Do you know what 9 Lives is? Yeah. 9 Lives is the movie where Kevin Spacey plays that all too familiar business dad. The business dad that's, he can't take his wife's calls and his son isn't living up to his expectations, so he's really hard on him, and his daughter has birthdays that he doesn't show up to because he's too busy at the office. But don't worry, weird-ass Christopher Walken playing that character again. Just whichever movie you know that character from. Or movies, plural. Comes in and he says, I'm going to teach you a lesson. And he turns Spacey into a cat. Why? Because he hates cats. And he says, but that's why it's perfect or whatever the fuck he was.
Is this movie made in the 90s?
No, the 50s.
It's the shaggy dog.
Yes.
That's exactly what it is.
With a little ghost dad thrown in.
Yeah, I see that.
So, our director is Barry Sonnenfeld. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's sad.
Barry Sonnenfeld, who brought us Men in Black, which we love.
Yes.
The Addams Family, which we pretty much love.
Yes.
And some stuff here and there. There's one I'm forgetting. Get Shorty.
Yes.
He did fucking Get Shorty. But Barry Sonnenfeld also did Wild Wild West and RV. So, he has such a weird career. He is the cinematographer for Raising Arizona.
And we're back to John Peters already, too, with the Wild Wild West.
Not only that, this movie about Kevin Spacey, business dad, turning into a cat and doing cat things, has 5 writers.
Dear Lord.
5 people had to work together to write this.
Yeah, I'm looking at their names right now, and I don't know a single one of them.
Honestly, if you did know one of them, that'd probably be worse.
Well, Wikipedia does not have them as clickable links, so that says something right there.
Okay. So just to be clear, if you slave away for months on end writing a script that you put everything you have into, it doesn't matter. Because 5 people who nobody knows and came from out of nowhere can work together to write this, and Kevin Spacey will star in it, and Barry Sonnenfeld will direct it.
This sounds like it's hitting a little too close to home for your taste.
I already went through that when I talked about Now You See Me. I don't want to. We don't want to retread those grounds.
Fair point.
So, do you want to take a wild guess what the opening credit sequence is?
I could have figured that out without it even knowing.
Of course it's cat videos on YouTube. What fucking else would it be? So, we went gemming the holograms on this movie. They're like, yeah, let's just grab random YouTube videos. That'll make us look hip.
Cat tube, so they don't have to pay the rights.
So, the movie starts off really weird because we ran out of cat videos, so the credits still have to keep going.
Yes.
So we get this this big view of the city. This I don't know. It kind of looked like
Men in Black. The
Don't
New
talk-
York scene.
Don't talk about Men in Black.
No,
that
it just
way.
looked like a lot of New York
Men in
scenes
Black
from Men
is
in Black.
brilliant.
I know Men in Black is brilliant. We'll talk about that one of these
The
days.
whole city basically looks animated.
Yeah,
But
green
that's-
screen land.
But that looks worse when we go up.
That's worse.
And we go into the sky. And you hear that little... You know when parents are trying to get babies to eat and they do the airplane noise? We hear that. And we see...
Oh my god, you're right.
And we see Spacey in this little plane set, which I don't even think has wings.
Nope.
Sitting in front of a fan that's blowing him while a green screen is behind him.
The green screen is horrible on the rooftop.
And just anytime it's there.
Yeah, it's bad. You could definitely tell this was not shot with a real scene.
You know those reviews you see online where it's those dudes where there's like a jump cut every 2 seconds and they're doing this at the camera as they scream about a movie? That kind of green screen.
Yep.
is in this.
What culture pro wrestling green screen?
And this is when we learn that Spacey has all the traits of the douchebag dad that's going to learn a lesson later.
Business dad.
And will or will not that lesson be about the importance of family? I don't know. I don't want to give any spoilers, so we won't talk about that. So, let's go through all the things that make this guy douche business dad. His son has to call him by his first name. When he writes letters to his son, he signs it with his first name.
Yep.
His son is not a man because he refuses to skydive. He is so corporate. His last name is Brand. That's how fucking corporate this guy is. It's in his damn name. For how douchey he is about his job.
He never takes calls from his wife when she calls at work.
She is programmed into his assistant's phone. That's how much he misses her calls.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically, Like, it's a whole... He lets his assistant leave the room to talk to his wife.
This guy.
Yes. So, we eventually get to the point to where the assistant I was just talking about, basically attempts to murder him. Okay, it's an accident.
No, it's not.
Look
at the scene, it's not an accident.
The way he ends up over the railing is an accident.
That's correct, but that is not
But the thing about it was, he was just about to fire this dude, and it's raining, so he's slipping, and he's got the cat. He had to go get... His daughter's always wanted a cat, and so he's sitting at the board meeting, having a whole meeting about this, even though he's the dad that doesn't care. I don't know, a whole board meeting devoted to her birthday present seems pretty caring to me, but...
Yeah.
But, fuck it. He's business dad. Fuck him.
Business dad.
He has to learn a lesson, this guy.
He's gonna die.
So, anyway, yes. Let's just straight up murder him for this.
That's exactly what happens, basically.
But he's like, she really wants a cat, but I fucking hate cats. And she's like, that should have been the dialogue.
Kevin Spacey would have written that dialogue. That's the thing.
This is just the very heavily edited version.
You could tell some of the stuff was ADR loop, because I know he wanted to curse most of the time.
Yeah, that's the thing, though, is when this movie started, it was such... Because when the first trailer came out, everybody immediately said, that is a Tropic Thunder trailer if I ever saw one.
Yeah, that's a good point.
This is one of those movies that would be a fake movie within a movie to show how much an actor has fallen.
Yep.
Which thankfully we know is not the case for Spacey, because House of Cards is still going. For however long. The fifth one's for next year. So he'll be fine. But still, this movie seemed like the poster child for career suicide.
Maybe it's Sonnenfeld's one song.
I don't know. I don't know what is up with him.
He's to do producing and cinematography again.
But anyway, when you look at here's the thing. If I had gone into this completely and totally blind,
mm-hmm.
like not even knowing,
anything about it.
Like knowing the concept, but not really anything else, like any kind of tone or anything.
Mm-hmm.
When it started, it feels like so much of a parody. I would have been waiting for a really raunchy R-rated comedy to step in. Like, I would have been waiting for this to be the 21 Jump Street of talking animal movies.
This could have been Ted with cats. It really could have, because it's set up perfectly.
Mind you, it still would have been played out.
Of course,
if that were the case.
It's still different,
But it's still...
What it could have been.
If I were watching this not knowing it was, in fact, a PG family movie, I would have been waiting for it to turn into an R-rated movie.
I can see where you're coming from there.
But sadly, that doesn't happen.
No.
So anyway, going back to where I started, he's having this board meeting saying, I fucking hate cats. I don't want a cat. She wants a cat. We gotta think about this. And like I said, he's a lot more caring than he lets on, because the guy's like, just get her a plush cat, because that's basically a cat. You can say, haha, fuck you, I got one over on you. But he refuses to do that. He's gonna go out. He's gonna go ahead and get the cat. He's gonna hate it, and he's gonna ridicule everybody in sight, but he's gonna get the cat. For this guy, that's a step up.
Right.
But no, he has to go back to the office, because it's what business dads do. And he ends up I don't even remember how he ended up there, but he ends up on the roof with the assistant he's gonna fire. It starts raining, he ends up over the railing, and basically falls to what should be his death.
It's a meeting. Because they wanted to put the top on the building, because they wanted to create the bigger
Oh, that's right, this thing.
Yeah.
So
why do I remember that?
So, because he literally drew it, and they kept pointing it back.
Exactly.
So then, when he falls, instead of it's very much Catwoman's origin.
Oh my god, it is.
Up to and including the thing, the canopy thing.
Yeah.
Only this one doesn't break because it's a kid's movie. So, because we're just not going to get away from Batman, that's it. We're just always here now.
Well, we have Kevin Spacey, who did play Lex Luthor, so this is still a DC video.
Yeah. And Sonnenfeld and Men in Black bring us back to Will Smith, so it's all good. It's all ties together.
Speaking of Sonnenfeld, are you, is he doing anything with the Men in Black movie with 21 Jump Street?
I doubt it.
That's a shame.
I don't think anybody in the original series is. I think it's a whole new thing.
Horrible shame. Continue.
So anyway, where were we again? Okay,
the Catwoman origin story.
So when he falls, we don't see him splatter or anything like that, because it's fucking Ghost Dad. He's in a coma. Because that cop-out we've never seen before. So while he's in the coma, he's in the cat. And now he's got to convince everybody who he is. Oh, God. Do you think it's going to start... Do you think the first person to figure out who he is going to be the neglected daughter who has to convince everybody else and doesn't believe her? Do you think we're going to do that? I don't know. We'll have to see. So, and from then on, as if you didn't already know, there are no surprises. There are those refrigerator magnet letters that just happen to be on the lower half of the refrigerator where nobody is. So he can move them around. That doesn't even work. I don't even know why they bother with that. Well, he just didn't have enough letters or something, wasn't it? Mm. So I guess that's kind of funny if that's like the intentional setup. But but I mean, still, you know. Then we have, who is it? Cheryl Hines. I get her and Kristen Chenoweth mixed up all the time.
I thought that's who it was the whole time.
Because they're the two women in fucking RV that Sonnenfeld did.
Yeah, that's Cheryl Hines.
So, right. Yes. Okay. So she's the stuck-up woman. I think she's related to one of them, but I don't know how. But she's just always...
She's his ex.
Yeah, that's fucking weird.
She's his ex-wife.
Yeah, she's always hanging around like they're best friends.
Man.
Which I don't get that
My
either.
stepmom and my mom always hung out when...
You think there'd at least be a little explanation, though, but they just let us fly. Yeah. They just let it run. Especially since that she's the kind of character that she is.
Yeah, she sucks.
Makes it even more... I don't understand the relationship here. Because she basically kind of forces herself in like Cruella de Vil.
Yeah.
Like she's kind of a forced family friend.
And she's always drinking and always shooting on him and everything. And...
Do you think... Now, once again, I don't want to give anything away.
Oh, boy.
But do you think this uptight, prissy character that just shuts down all of the good characters in the movie is going to get a comeuppance involving cat piss? I don't want to say, too much, but, do you think that might happen?
I kind of thought you were going to get hit by a bus at one point.
Okay, here's another big sin, and that is, well, first off, you might think, is there any humor to be had in Spacey's voice work?
He seems bored. Really bored.
Well, first off, it doesn't help that it seems like when you see, how voice work is done, it's typically, you say a line and you do like 10 variations of that one line. It's like a really long process. And then you do that for like every line. You say the line like 10 different ways, and then you go to the next one, and so on. I'm pretty sure Spacey said all of these lines in one take, and they just moved on. And like, this is the first time he's seen the script, and he's saying the lines, and they're just recording it once and then running with it. But then there are other times where I'm not so sure.
He seems like he's into it some of the time.
I wouldn't say that.
Well, no, compared to what he normally does. Because
there are a couple of lines where it's almost kind of like he wasn't supposed to be recorded. Take, for instance, the kitchen drawer.
Okay.
When he's like, I gotta get up to the Fruity Pebbles because I don't want my cat food. And the Fruity Pebbles is the only thing I see. And they're way up there, and I can't reach. So it just so happens Jennifer Garner's like, I'm gonna open this drawer. Oh, wait, I just remembered something. And leaves the drawer open.
Oh, okay.
So it's like, oh, yes. Okay, that's convenient. So anyway, he jumps onto the drawer, and the drawer comes out, of course, and all the contents spill, and the knives stick in the floor, and then he lands over here. And the cat kind of sits up, and he's like, oh, God, I wish I'd landed on the knives.
That shouldn't have been recorded.
I was like, who is talking? The cat? Or...
I think they just left it in.
But then there is another moment when there is, obviously, the night he took the plunge was the night of the big birthday party.
Right.
And they saved a piece of cake for him. And they wrote his name on it. It's like, this is for Dad! And they put it in the refrigerater. And Jennifer Garner goes in there and looks later and sees that, and she's like, and then has a breakdown with the cat. And she's like, she looks at the cat, and she's like, you must think I'm silly, crying over a piece of cake. And he's like, well, your husband's in a coma, so there's that, too. And I was thinking, because the cat's mouth doesn't move. So Spacey can pretty much say whatever he wants, and they'll make it match up with the cat. And that almost makes it sound like Spacey's basically critiquing the movie as he watches it. Because that's what I would be thinking if he hadn't said it. Was, maybe it's not the cake you're crying over? I think we put that together. So some of that gets put in there. But no, let's go off that even more. When it's not stuff that sounds like it shouldn't have been recorded, or when it's stuff that sounds like it was recorded once and they just didn't care. Quite a bit of this movie is just the cat meowing without his voice.
Yeah.
Could they only afford him for so much time, or... That seemed like or they just forgot what to write.
That's possible, too.
These 5 people could not come up with a single fucking thing for this cat to say. So for a lot of the time, he's just meowing. Normally. Whose fucking bright idea was that? Did they forget what their concept was? Was this not supposed to be a talking cat movie and they just kind of made it that way in post?
I blame the 6th writer they fired after day 1.
So, and when he's doing that, he's basically doing the stuff from the internet videos. You know those videos where a cat dives for something and just hits a wall? We get that a few times. Garner's doing her own slapsticking around, bumping her head off shit, chasing him around. But then, we get into some... Could have been dark territory. Oh shit, he's also saying, he also has a lot of repeated lines. Those are those 5 writers at work. Pretty much any time he's put in a compromising situation, his response is, seriously? You know, because they're like, hey, if Kevin Spacey sounds like a whatever-era teenager, that'll be hip and funny. And then every time he does something right, he screams, nailed it. Because that's in as well. 5 motherfucking writers. 5.
What did they come up with?
That's not only 5 writers, that's 5 paychecks. How much does that cost?
Oh my god, a lot more than they're worth. I'm sure these people are nice, it's just they can't write movies.
Maybe they got 1 paycheck that they had to split.
Split 5 ways, it's like a lottery. Like, you have to split this 5 ways. Why? Because your thing's worth 1%.
It's funny you use the word lottery, because I guarantee these people fucking won it when they got this job. So... But then the movie takes a bit of a dark turn.
Yeah, big time.
Inappropriately. Like, not even in a way that I condone it and say, like, wow, they went there. No. Number 1, they don't go there because they fucking cop out. Which is blatantly obvious when you think about a scene prior.
Right.
But even so, you make all the obvious jokes you will. My mind kind of already went there, and you can just, you know, it's too obvious of a joke to even make. So I'm not even going to bother, but I will just say that the climax of this movie, the climax of 9 Lives, the Kevin Spacey talking cat movie, that's rated PG, its climax is what we are led to believe is an attempted suicide. Like I said, I'll give you a moment to make all the jokes you want. Okay. Now that that's over with, let me tell you how this scene plays out. Basically, the son has lost the company to our villain. You know, the murderer. The attempted murderer. So he goes to the top of the building, and he's gonna jump off and kill himself.
Yeah.
So it's the cat's job to stop him. But here's the issue, is we're getting real serious now. It's raining again. I think it's raining again, and then it's just not. I don't remember. But
yeah, pretty much. I think they lost their budget.
Okay. Because when we get to the bottom, it's not raining. But
nope.
Anyway, you should know that's just how tall the building is. It's stopped by that.
That's believable, actually.
So while this son, is on the roof, Spacey's about to flatline, he's lost the company, he's looking down at the inevitable, He's gonna jump off into a splattery, bloody death. While this is happening, we're cutting back and forth to the cat running to the rescue.
Oh, God.
And while we're cutting, we got dude on the roof ready to commit suicide. To go to the other Underwood, kind of like Jenny in Forrest Gump.
Right.
When she's on the ledge.
Correct.
Well, then we're coming back to the cat, who's basically getting into a whole bunch of situations that would fit the Alvin and the Chipmunks movies.
Uh-huh.
It felt like, let me say this again and clarify, it felt like we were cutting back and forth between an attempted suicide and a live-action Alvin and the Chipmunks movie.
Oh, my God.
Can you understand where there might be a problem here?
There's a lot more than just one.
That's our climax. So, the point I'm getting at is that, what the fuck? This, when this movie is not doing those things I mentioned, it's just fucking weird. It's just got a weird vibe around it. Like, everybody making this movie kind of knew what it was. And so they just kind of... How does this even happen? How does this movie exist? Where did this... Where was even the... I can't even form questions.
I don't know. I really do not know.
Okay. If it's any consolation, I drew a little cat next to the title.
What? I have to look at that video.
Because I was waiting for... When we were waiting for it to start. If anything, this prompted me to go ahead and start watching House of Cards, finally. It took me 6 years, but I'm finally catching up on the show that's making my favorite actor of all time big again. I have 1.5 episodes left of season 2, so I'm like halfway.
Very impressive.
And yes. So, and these characters, needless to say, are vastly different. So, you know what? I think that's about it. So, the rest just speaks for itself. The rest just speaks when you know the plot.
I think this movie is going to fail massively.
Wouldn't be surprising. So, I already made this reference earlier, but I'll say it again anyway. The greatest trick Kevin Spacey could ever pull is convincing the world this movie doesn't exist.
I saw that and I applauded you when I saw that, actually.
It comes out in theaters and like that. It's gone.
I don't know what's the crowd for this movie? Like cat fans?
Just little children.
I don't even think they're going to be in.
I know there were 4 people in there with us last night and none of them were little children.
No, there weren't. And there were 4 that were supposed to be in there and they never showed up.
Yeah. Alright, let's go back to Batman real quick.
Yes.
I should probably speed this up. We're over an hour in and I've got fucking Sharknado to still talk about. But before that, we're going to talk about The Killing Joke. Which was the highly anticipated movie based on that book that everybody that was a fan of the animated series was waiting for, because the book was 85, I think. This book even predates Burton's first movie. The big thing was, number one, Mark Hamill said that he was done because his vocal cords couldn't take it, unless they made The Killing Joke into a movie. So they made The Killing Joke into a movie, and Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy as well came back. Ray Wise is Commissioner Gordon. Is he always him, or is he?
I'm not thinking so.
And I think
looking deeper into it.
I think Tara Strong is Barbara, isn't she?
Yeah.
Okay. So they're all people we recognize, which is interesting for a movie that's this kind of, yeah. The other thing obviously getting attention is the fact that regardless of being an animated Bat movie, this officially got an R rating. Much like the Ultimate Cut, I can't really explain why, but it is very interesting that they went for it.
Violence?
I will just say, well, there's a couple of things. Well, for starters, here's an issue. The opening. Now, we'll get to the whole story in a minute, but just the opening in general, this little action scene. You go in, and your immediate thought process is, this movie has an R rating. It may be animated, it may be Batman, but this movie is rated R. What are we in for? So we open on this chase. And it's like, so is there going to be violence in there? Is there going to be, like, nudity? Is there going to be language? Are we going to have all the above? How far did they take this R rating? Well, one of the first lines in the movie is, "Son of a," and it gets cut off. And then, not too much long later, one of the bad guys says, "Freaking A." It's like, okay, are we going to utilize this or not? This is an R-rated movie, right? I think at the very beginning stages they weren't sure. But it gets a little bit into it later. They stop, like there's a moment where Batman and Batgirl are referred to as the Bat and his bitch. There's stuff like that. Ass, I think, is dropped once. Pissed is dropped once. Nothing too major.
Why is this not PG-13?
I'm not really sure. There's one graphic headshot. No, I guess there's two graphic headshots. I wouldn't call them R-rated headshots, but I don't know, maybe for an animated movie they are. And there's implied sex, but we'll get to that later because that's incredibly controversial. I will say going into this, I know the animated Batman movies get a lot. People love the animated Batman movies. The two you hear most about are Mask of the Phantasm and Return of the Joker. That's the two I hear about the most anyway. And I was never that crazy about those. I thought they were fine, but I've just never, they just never really. But I only saw like maybe a season or something of the animated show, which I know is like, some people say it's like the ultimate, but.
Oh yeah.
But it's, from what I've seen, I just think it's fine, I guess. I mean, it's very good with capturing the tone, for sure. But I just my interest just kind of fades in and out during most of them. So, we open, and you probably heard, you didn't watch this yet, did you?
No.
You've probably heard, though, about, the controversial opening. And by opening, I mean the entire first half hour of a movie that's an hour and 15 minutes.
Mm. It's
literally one half of the movie. The entire first half of this movie is not even the Killing Joke. Because you go in and you're like, the Killing Joke is an awesome story, for sure. I remember reading, my brother got the book like 7 or so years ago, and I read it then, and I still remembered it vividly through all this time. But your question is, how do they make that feature length? Because there's only so much you can do. Their solution was to basically make 2 movies. Because they try to tie in the first half with the second half, but there's not a whole lot. Like I said, they consider it a prologue, but it's the entire first half, where Batman and Batgirl are pursuing a villain named Paris Franz.
Oh my god.
Who is the son of a crime boss, who's basically trying to take over. And that's about it. And it's a will they, won't they with Batman and Batgirl thing. Yeah, I don't know.
Confused.
And yep, they fuck. People hate that. People hate that Bruce Wayne and Barbara Gordon have now officially been together. And it ends up making, it's really fucking awkward too, because it's, the way they, for starters, you're probably very concerned about how they show it, given that it's animated. It's her on top of him, and then she whips her mask off, then she whips her shirt off, and then it pans up to a gargoyle that looks like it's watching them. I think that's supposed to be funny. I'm not totally sure. And then it's just implied for the rest of the movie. And then it basically turns Barbara into, the girl character. That's kind of, doesn't that kind of go against, like, what she's
Completely.
okay. Because she's having a conversation with Bruce after it happened, and she actually has the line, "It was just sex!" So she's basically like a teenage girl now. And then it's the whole, it's just sex. I don't care. I'm sure you don't care. I don't care at all. That's actual dialogue too. Yeah. And then of course, and once again, if she's not the girl character enough, she's beating the shit out of Paris Franz, and she's real pissed off about it. What do you think Paris Franz says to egg her on? If you guessed, must be that time of the month. Congratulations, you win.
That's horrible.
Not to mention, I don't know if this is part of that progressive thing. I don't know if this is in there because the writers are misguided. I don't know, but you better believe when Barbara hangs out at the library, she's got the flamboyant gay friend with the blonde emo haircut. You better believe it. I guess it's supposed to be a bit progressive because it's an animated Batman movie, and it's not even implied. He just straight up, she's talking about her love life, vaguely, because it's Batman. And he actually says, even the gay scene's not this confusing. So they do just flat out say he's gay. They don't try to beat around the bush or anything. I mean, you just fucking look at the dude. It's obvious. But, I mean, props for not, dancing around it, I guess. So there's that. I mean, there's still the stuff in there that we like about Batman, where it's, he has a very Batman line in there where it's like, he's telling her the way it is, and she's like, so what, you just speak it and suddenly everything you say is the law? And his response is just, yes.
That's very much Batman. It's a very Kevin Conroy delivery, too.
And then there's there's also, the way the animation has been kind of controversial, too, to my understanding. It certainly looks different. Sometimes for the better, sometimes maybe not. Cause there's, sometimes, they always look like they always have, the drawn. But then sometimes the backgrounds have, a really realistic look to them. And sometimes it kind of looks like it's a cartoon drawing with a backdrop that's, almost practically real life. I don't know. It doesn't sound as bad. It doesn't look as bad as that might make it sound, but, it takes a little bit of getting used to when you see it, but once the more the movie goes on, it's fine. And the scene at the end when we're at the carnival and there's the carousel. The carousel looks real as opposed to drawn, but you still have this drawing of Batman walking around it. So it looks better than that probably makes it sound, but then you have stuff where the animators were kind of trying to cut down on their work, I guess. Because, there's a moment when they're, on a roof, and he's talking to Batgirl, and he's basically saying, we're partners, we're not equals. And then we kind of cut to her, and she's supposed to be emoting, she's making a face. Only problem is, instead of her, emoting, it's just her with one emotion, and the frame is, stopped. And it's we're just kind of stuck on a freeze frame for a second, and it's this is her emoting. It's you got that emotion right, and then we go to something else. Sometimes it does that. So, yes, that first half hour leaves a lot to be desired, to say the least. And is really, really does not have a purpose. It really doesn't. The tie-in is that this is basically Batgirl's last mission before she decides to stop working. And obviously, once she stops working is when the Joker shows up at her in Gordon's place and wipes her out and cripples her. and then the Killing Joke actually goes into it. And then, once it's actually the Killing Joke, it's decent, but compared to what we just saw, it's a huge step up. And really, maybe that was their plan all along. Just in case they don't like this, let's put something kind of shitty in the first half hour to make it look real good in comparison. But that's the problem, though, is when you think about the fact that when you hear that the Killing Joke has a prologue, you might be thinking that it's... And yes, they intentionally divert because, of course, the very opening scene is her narrating and saying, "I bet you didn't think this story would start with me." Now, while watching it, I was trying to figure out... because obviously once we get to the Killing Joke, that story is happening, and it's intercut with the Joker's backstory, with the Red Hood and the acid and all that. So the question I was asking myself was, maybe it would have made it feel a little more disjointed, maybe it would have made it feel more cohesive. If you were going to give the Killing Joke a prologue, and you absolutely positively must have the Paris Franz story in there, would it maybe have come off maybe a little better if we took all the Joker origin story that was being cut back and forth to in the main story and made that whole thing the prologue? And so it kind of felt like we came full circle when the Killing Joke came around. And not just, here's a half-hour prologue of Barbara, and then here's the Killing Joke that you know.
Yeah.
Maybe? I don't know. But that would have been my suggestion, probably. I mean, they kind of try to do a thing where it's like, it's the fucking thing we were just talking about. With the Joker's backstory is triggered through something. Like, he sees something that reminds him of something. That whole thing. God, that's popular lately with fucking Finding Dory and all this stuff.
So, this would be Hamill's, because of his voice, is maybe his last performance as the Joker.
I think he's switched to do some other stuff now, too. Like, I guess he's just hooked again, I don't know.
If he can still do it, I'd give him credit. He is the best voice the Joker that exists.
I think they're doing some kind of Justice League thing or something that he's going to be in.
That makes sense.
So, yeah, once it gets to that story, it's kind of, it's fine. It definitely finds that darker tone we were looking for, because the Paris Franz story doesn't fucking have that dark tone. They try to throw in some language in there and like a headshot or two, but they really don't reach that dark tone we're looking for. But then you have that opening when we have Batman and Harvey Bullock, and they're in that place where those corpses have been there for like 3 years, and they have the deformed smiles, and they're all tied up and set up like an audience, and at the front of them is just a microphone. And then it's kind of like, okay, we reached that dark tone we're looking for. This is actually quite creepy. And then from then on, it's basically shot for shot out of the book. They basically Watchmen'd it from then on.
Nice.
The climax is in a bit of a different place. It's still the same, but they kind of added a location. And of course, there's references everywhere. There's when they're going through Arkham, where the Joker supposedly is. There's Harvey Dent's door with the arm sticking out and scratching against it. There is, I was telling you, there is a moment when we're in the Batcave and he's looking at all of it, like his Joker wall. And I'm going to assume there's more references in there, but the two that I saw were, it's a whole bunch of different images of the Joker. And there's one that's Jack's Joker, with like, the commercial for SmileX, where it's
I've seen that in pictures.
Where it's like the bird on his shoulder.
Yeah.
And then, there's one real quick of Ledger's Joker when he's sitting in the jail cell.
Mm.
I'm going to assume there were probably other Jokers, and Cesar Romero was probably in there.
I'm positive he was in there.
If I had to guess.
Yeah.
Like I said, each one of those pictures was probably some sort of in-Joker. Those are the two I saw before Cutaway, and the Robin picture.
Yeah.
In the corner. So yeah, like I said, they do some Oh, there's also there's a couple of references to Nolan's Batman. Whether they're intentional or not is kind of hard to say, but I'm going to assume so.
Okay.
Take for instance, so the one that might be unintentional is when obviously that opening scene where it's the imposter Joker in the cell, and he grabs him and pulls him in and says, "Where is he?" In that, he basically uses Bale's voice to ask where he is.
Nice.
I believe the line "Where is he?" is the line everybody uses when they imitate the Bale voice. But to continue on that, this one, there's no way this is a coincidence. This absolutely positively has to be an actual reference. They use the line from Begins when the guy says, "I swear to God," and he says, "Swear to me." Yeah, no way that's a coincidence.
No.
I'm going to assume that was an intentional reference.
Positive.
So, another thing that I couldn't help but notice, going back to the prologue, was, well, not prologue, but what I felt could have been the prologue, which was the Joker's backstory. A lot of that seems kind of rushed. Because obviously his wife dies and stuff like that. That seems all very, very abrupt. And just everything, there's a huge abruptness to it. And I know you basically want to do it shot for shot from the book, I get it. But when you think about the fact that we had an opening that was a half hour of this Batman, Batgirl kind of somewhat love story with some idiot crime boss, could that time not have been better put to use with, say, more expansion on the Joker's backstory? No, we want the Paris Run story instead. Okay, fine. Do what you want to do, I guess. Okay, we're doing shot for shot from the book, right?
Mm.
Well, guess what? Shot with the camera? Not in there.
Wow. It's even the poster.
It cuts away. He's still just holding the glass, and he says, like, he's basically hinting at what he's gonna do, and he like undoes her shirt and shit. Before he even picks the camera up, the scene just cuts and the scene's over. We don't know that he took pictures until the payoff in the ride. Not sure whose decision that was to leave out that iconic image, but okay. The image that's so big they used it in the fucking promotion of Suicide Squad. Remember the picture of Leto?
Yep.
Nope. Didn't even bother to put it in there. They just cut away before they could get there. But there's still they do conjure up some decent imagery to in regards to the first image we get of Arkham is really cool, where it's like over the gate, and like the score that's playing for that scene too is really cool. It's a nice little intro. And once we get into it and we get to like the climax, it kind of kicks into gear and is what it's supposed to be. The Joker's backstory is told pretty well for what little is there. It's still in that kind of gray tint, like you say it. There's a lot of real promise in there for what they could have achieved, and it sometimes reaches it, but for the most part, it's kind of always holding itself back. But I'm fine with it. Once we get to the second half, I'm fine with it. So there's that. The ending is a bit controversial too, where people take the ending multiple ways. I was talking about it with my brother because he saw it too, and we basically came to the conclusion that what's led to believe is something major happening off screen. We came to the conclusion we think it's just a directorial choice that just kind of emphasizes something more than it emphasizes another, and is not in fact what people think it might be saying it is. So that's just what I think, though. So
Well, you were talking about Mark Hamill continuing to get the bug. There's a Cartoon Network show that's going to be debuting this fall that has both him and Conroy. It's called Justice League Action.
So yeah, Hamill, you might as well just not even bother with the "I think I'm done after this" thing. You probably won't be.
The voice cast of this, I think you'd find very interesting when you look at it.
What's that?
Well, it's got...
what are we talking about?
Well, we're talking about the Justice League animated show. You got Conroy's Batman and Hamill as Joker. Sean Astin is in it as Shazam. Diedrich Bader is in it. Hannibal Buress. Lacey Chabert. Gilbert Gottfried. There's a lot of really... Patton Oswalt's in it.
Well...
James Woods as Lex Luthor is the last thing I want to say to you.
Really?
Yes.
That would be fun.
Yes. And Brett Spiner is the Riddler.
Alright, well, going back to Gilbert Gottfried.
See, that was a segue. I did that on purpose.
Our last movie is Sharknado 4. We're an hour and 25 minutes in.
Oh, boy.
I will not waste any more time on this than I need to.
Oh, boy.
Was my review of the third one basically was just me saying this is a waste of time over and over again, right?
And I put over the Universal stuff, and that was the end of the video.
Alright. Well, we got another one of these.
Is this the last one?
I doubt it.
Oh, okay.
So, you mean, do they set up for another one?
My correction is yes.
Obviously.
Of course.
So, it's called The Fourth Awakens. And it starts off with the opening crawl.
Are you kidding me?
Nope. The only other reference to Star Wars is one line. They don't have that kind of budget. Come on.
Did they have the budget for the crawl?
So anyway, so they went to space.
Of course, because
Last
everybody
one.
goes to space.
So you think that's why it's going to be called The Fourth Awakens. It's going to be big, and it's going to be like Star Wars, right? It's going to be like some Star Wars spoof.
Nope.
Apart from the opening crawl and that one line, that's the Star Wars reference. The rest of the movie, the opening is in Vegas, the rest is in Kansas.
That's a weird jump. A really
Well,
weird
Kansas
jump.
makes sense because of the tornadoes, but other than that...
Oh, good point.
So, as I've made it clear before, I was never, ever, ever once on board with this bullshit. I only ever watch them because he wants me to review them for this.
Yeah, that's alright.
So, and we're still in this thing where they think that they are... Well, here's the problem, is that there are so many misunderstandings in regards to this. People call it out for the shit that it is. It is worthless. It doesn't need to exist. It is not entertaining. It's doing nobody any favors whatsoever by existing. Except for the negative Z-list actors that get some parts in it. However, some people are under the impression that the people that feel this way don't understand that it's supposed to be bad. I think we all understand what the point of the movie is. It's just fucking lazy. And played out. And just all of that bullshit. It basically... Here's the thing. Most obviously it's bad. It's got the bad effects and the bad dialogue. That are just bad. Like, they're not even... It's to a point now to where they are so into it. It does not feel intentional anymore. Even if it did in the first place. There were still those moments, even back in the first one, where you kind of felt like they were trying to do something that they thought was legitimately awesome. As opposed to this fucking trend of, let's just see how ridiculous we can go, and everybody will love us for our so bad it's good qualities. Which is about the worst thing that you can do. It is just... God, I don't even... Because here's the thing, is these people who defend it are under the impression that everything that's bad about it, legitimately, is all under that guise of it's supposed to be. You can do fucking anything if you're gonna hide it callously under that shit. And it just happens coincidentally, I think not, in that era, the Twitter era, where you all turn on Sharknado with your Twitter accounts opened so that you can point out all the crazy shit that happens just to tell thousands upon thousands of people, hey, that stuff you're watching, I just want you to know that I'm watching it too, and I'm part of the group. And it's really, really fucking pathetic.
We just promoted Universal. We didn't say anything about the actual movie.
It's really... You know who I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about. It has nothing to do with me or anybody.
It's really, really sad.
Any of my friends.
And the thing is that everything that's wrong with the other movies, these movies will not change. These movies refuse change. The only way they will change is trying to up the ante, I suppose. Where in this case, our plot is that Sharknadoes haven't been around for 5 years. We jumped 5 years in time, even though these movies are only 1 year apart. Tommy Davidson is a scientist who has created pods that wipe out Sharknadoes before they can happen.
Okay.
But then we get one that's sand-based. I'm not sure how that changes it. But apparently that means it can't be stopped. So we just run with that. And we have a 20-minute opening scene where Vegas is attacked. A 20-minute... when I say opening scene, I mean there are 20 minutes of Vegas and then an opening credit scene. Yeah, we can't even stop it. The crawl was not enough. We actually have to have an opening credit scene to fill in the runtime, so we don't. We got to fill in that 2-hour slot on Sci-Fi. So, playing that stupid fucking song again, of course. Okay, and as if they're not reaching the bottom of the barrel. Fucking Hasselhoff was in the last one, so you can just see just how far the desperation is going. It's like, hey, when we put stuff in here, it means when we put this person in this movie, it means we're self-aware because we're using this person. But as if we're not reaching the bottom of the barrel enough, most of Ian Ziering's co-stars from The Celebrity Apprentice start showing up here.
Yep.
One of which is Gary Busey as a scientist, who is Tara Reid's father. A movie where Gary Busey is playing Tara Reid's father. Will you please tell me in what universe this movie needs to happen? This movie needs to exist in. And it's even worse knowing that Hasselhoff and Busey were actually in a movie together 4 years ago with that straight-to-TV Piranha sequel.
Right.
Because we saw how that turned out. That movie was stellar, wasn't it? The movie that ends with the hilarious decapitation of a 5-year-old child in front of his mother. Hysterical. But regardless of that, and this is how you know they're going all out, obviously, we have different tornadoes now. There's a cow-nado.
I'm reading this. This is ridiculous.
There's a lightning-nado. I'm assuming this is supposed to be clever, right? And here's the number one. I'm sure probably deep down they think it's seen as clever, but they'll just cover it up by saying it's supposed to be outlandish, as they cry on the inside like, please, why don't they think it's awesome? I think it's awesome. But then, and it's really just a case of they're hoping people will say, oh my god, a cow-nado, whatever will they do next?
Twister. They're ripping off Twister.
Yeah. And then.
I'm reading this, they're making my head hurt.
They think they're going to go a step farther. This is one of those things that they just expect Twitter to be plastered with. And I'm sure the fucking idiots dove right into it.
No.
Like the little puppets that they are. And that is the fact that Tara Reid's a cyborg now.
Yeah, I saw that. Why?
Because the third movie ended with her getting crushed to death.
Live or die.
And then it did the whole thing. Tweet if you think she should live or tweet if you think she should die. And for some reason, they voted her back.
And we're back to Batman.
I thought that would have been a given. Like, they were like, fucking, I can choose if Tara Reid's in a movie or not. Fuck no.
All my friends were voting no.
Well, apparently, I'm gonna guess
They voted no.
I'm gonna guess that didn't. I'm gonna guess the voting didn't matter. They probably already had this one written.
Yeah.
Said, fuck you.
Some of these NATOs just remind me of Dr. Doofenshmirtz and NATOs. They don't make any sense.
It's supposed to be bad, man. It's intentionally bad. That makes up for everything, man. You just don't get it.
Fire NATO. David Copperfield did the Tornado of Fire in the 90s. Come on.
That happened in the Storm, too.
Exactly. That movie was good.
No, it wasn't.
Compared to this, it is.
And there's, they just start referencing movies.
Oh, of course they do.
Oz makes a little sense, because it's in fucking Kansas, and it's a tornado.
Right. Sure.
But then they bring Titanic into it. Actual line, Sharkburg right ahead. Because they take the pirate ship from Vegas. There is a clear reference to aliens, Ian's earrings, and the fucking thing. Then there is a Stacey Dash scene where I don't even think I'm talking to the right audience anymore, and I don't know how anybody would think these, I don't know, depends on who you're talking to, I guess, but how these crowds would cross over. So we get our first Stacey Dash scene. She's on the news, and the reporter talking to her is Howard Beale, and I was like, what the fuck? That's Peter Finch's name in Network. That's interesting. That's weird. I'm sure there's absolutely no reference here, because why the fuck would they reference Network? So he asks Stacey Dash a question, and not even related to the question he asks. She just says the line, "I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore."
Oh. That's wrong.
Fucking Network?
That is wrong.
It doesn't even make sense within the...
What?
All the others I get, to an extent. But why Network? Who watching Sharknado 4, when it airs, is gonna see the name Howard Beale and know who that is?
Was there any Twister references?
Fucking probably.
There has to. If they didn't, that account.
Gilbert Godfrey, with the way he was going, probably said something like it.
Okay, fair point.
Then there's the moment where they have to reference, it's when Tara Reid shows up after she's a cyborg and she lifts a car up off a kid. And she's like, he's like, whoa! And he's like, you're like that? And she's like, yeah, I'm like Iron Man. And then she just kind of like, the kid, like, the whole idea is to stop the car so the kid doesn't get crushed. But this whole scene takes place while the kid is sitting here, and she's holding the car up, and they're having a conversation about fucking Iron Man. And it's not supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be the big, awesome, badass reveal of her.
No.
Cameos make it worse. You wonder how the cameos are basically going to show how bottom of the barrel we've gotten. The very first cameo of the movie is Carrot Top.
The cab driver.
In Vegas.
Of course, because that's where he lives, literally.
We have sunk that low already. But we get... And sometimes, most of the cameos are just headache-inducing, and probably half the people I don't even recognize. They're just that far down.
This lineup is the 90s. This is like a VH1 list.
Usually the cameos can be... They're absolutely fucking pointless, and they're only to continue to be the attention whore that these movies are. But every now and then it can be a little fun just to see who pops up. It's getting less and less and less fun as the movies go, because we're getting farther and farther and farther down. But we have reached the ultimate to the Earth's core level of nobody fucking cares. Yep, one of the cameos in this movie is none other than Steve Guttenberg.
Yes.
You cannot go any farther down. There is nowhere else to go. I say that, but of course the movie ends with a tornado coming around and throwing down a piece of the Eiffel Tower. To be continued again. No. Just you can't hide under this. It's intentionally bad thing. You're just a fucking piece of shit, and you are worthless, and you put no effort into anything, and you will not. Like I said, I feel like they're legit trying to be cool under the guise of they're intentionally being bad. That's just their fucking insurance.
Right.
Well, you will never be cool with TV effects, let me assure you. All the fucking action scenes are the same. A shark dives, they take a chainsaw, and all the fucking things are like that. Remember when that was so badass in the first one, or was it the second one? I don't even know anymore. And most of the time, they run out of TV effects even. And when something looks like something gruesome is going to happen, they just fucking cut away to something else. Because they don't have the money to show it.
Please tell me, like, the Chrisley family, like, they bite it. Please tell me that Todd Chrisley and his worthless family die.
Who are they?
He's that really goofy guy who has the southern accent with the blonde hair, really obnoxious.
He was probably one of the ones. He was probably in that scene when the woman says, it wouldn't be Texas without a chainsaw massacre.
Jesus!
Was that them?
Maybe. It's probably... What about Bud Bundy's cameo? David Faustino playing a gambler named Bud?
I don't think I even saw him.
That's not good.
It might have been really, really brief, because I would have recognized him, but I don't remember that.
Seth Rollins is in the movie, using his shooting last name.
Who is that?
Well, he's going to lose the WWE Universal Championship at SummerSlam to Finn Balor. He's one of the Shield. Tyler Black, Ring of Honor. You don't know these things.
We got to cut this off now. We're going to go too long.
We already have.
Too long.
Till Sharknado 5, I guess.
Would you people fucking give up? But no, as long as fucking Twitter is alive and well, they'll do just fine. I hope the 12-year-olds you're pleasing are worth it.
Oh boy.
That's it.
That's it. A long edition of AJ's Movie Reviews. We had a lot of Venom to spew today. So star mounts. Suicide Squad.
2.5.
9 Lives.
1.5.
The Killing Joke.
2.5.
Sharknado 4.
As if it matters, 1. Once again, won't show up on the worst of the year list because I don't even consider it a fucking movie. It's a fucking waste of a spot.
9 Lives might.
No, I've got way too much of a Spacey bias for that. That's why I got the half.
But that makes sense. Next week we have Pete's Dragon Sausage Party. That's going to be coming your way. Potentially something else. You never know. Who knows at this point? So, versus this week, your cryptic comment is Cave, coming at you on Sunday. Should be a fun one. And tomorrow, the 6th Halloween Horror Nights 26 podcast with the Elite of the Podcast Network at 9 p.m. So check that out. Podcast Network on Twitter, Podcast Network on Facebook for our fan page, and also our Zazzle store for merchandise. At Sir Owen Disney if you want to tweet me. And AJ, you can reach him if you want to via my email, siroWendisney@gmail.com. So in the meantime, I want to thank you guys and girls out there for watching. AJ, any parting words?